Hello, everybody. Good morning. Technically, it's 11:53 in Marietta, Georgia. It's 49 degrees Fahrenheit outside. There's a nut for Rhett. She's really begging for it. Oh man, my webcam is not working. Let me deactivate, activate. Sometimes it's a little janky if I do that. Okay, yeah, it seems to be working. All right, so we are finishing up our unit tests on this, and I think it's like maybe I've been sort of like a solid advocate for unit tests for about a month now. But I will say that as an advocate for unit tests and as an advocate for end-to-end testing, I think you have to acknowledge that like literally the vast majority of places that do implement those things, organizations botch it. It does more damage than good. So you can't just be like, oh, okay, we're going to add unit tests and be like, okay, everything's going to be better. It is very, very possible for unit tests to make you have lower quality code once you're done because everyone's making weird coding choices just for unit testing. So sometimes that is a thing. But I will say that like you know it's weird. You kind of have to have like a different personality and at different phases in software development. And you do need some sort of time during your software development that you just become like obsessive compulsive, where you're like, okay, everything has to make absolute sense. I need to understand every single individual line of code. And and you can't always be that way because sometimes you just can't think at the line of code. You can't fix a problem by thinking at the line of code level. And so I've kind of carved out this point of time um, in unit testing to be that obsessive compulsive sort of developer mindset. And what's important, I think, is that when you do that, you have to have some way. Like while you're being obsessive compulsive at the line level, you can't really think at the 30,000 foot level. So you need something so that you don't end up breaking the application while you're trying to achieve 100% unit test coverage or whatever you're trying to achieve. So anyways, I think when we went over this yesterday, we saw that we had one thing here that looked like it was going to be fairly easy to get. Yeah, and the only thing is we just don't call this um, ever. So it would be good to get that. So I guess the easiest, there's always a million different ways to kind of do this, but the what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try and just search on that function name. And a lot of times it's very helpful to put the closing parenthesis. So it looks like we have two. Oh, okay. So we have one thing that calls it, and then one thing that is it. So this is the is it. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to close all the other um, tabs up here because they're they're taking more energy than they are bringing value. All right. So in our viz service, we need to call this function. So uh, it should. So this is an assertion, and again, I feel like I'm going to have to say this every single time from here on out. That if you are working on an Angular 21 plus application that you created as part of from the CLI with Angular 21 or beyond, you are probably using a thing called VITE is how it's spelled. I believe it would be pronounced Vite. I've never heard it pronounced by anybody, so it could be, who knows, I might be mispronouncing it. But this is Karma Jasmine. Now, when you get into the unit test world, they start talking about runners versus, I don't know, assertion engines, things like that. And I don't really know what that is, but in Karma Jasmine, it is fairly similar. So what we see might or might not be of value to you. I have a little bit of exposure to the VITE um, unit test system that comes. That's what I'm getting with my newest stuff. And that's the way things goes. That's how it's going to go. So it should, I think the way you name an assertion, I believe this is an assertion. Oh no, this is a specification. The very first thing is the text that describes what you expect. It's called expectation. And then the second thing is the assertion, which is a Jasmine implementation callback. Or I guess it is allowed to be undefined. Um, so this is our uh, expectation. So it should, that's typically what we do. We say should. I don't know why. Um, uh, Set the aspect ratio for a render ID. And then basically we're going to have a function and there's certain things that you can put on there, but right now we don't need anything special. So it's just going to be a function, just a plain old arrow function. And basically the name of this, and it's just kind of how the tool, the CLI, when it creates these components, it creates a unit test, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in 2 or 3 when I've upgraded this a few more times. If when I go to create a new component, if it creates a Carmen Jasmine, or if it's going to create like the new thing, that's going to be an interesting day. Um, and I don't know what I'll end up doing at that point, but anyways, const. I'll worry about that when const result is equal to service. They just named it service at the top, and then set AR. And I don't even think it doesn't even have to be a real STID. STID ST renderer ID. Right. Is equal to 1, and then const width. And I am optimizing my code for 100% test coverage. I'm not optimizing it to actually test things, and the reason is because I like the 100% test coverage because I think it does expose when I make code changes. Sometimes you make code changes, you don't really know exactly, you're not 100% aware of what you're really doing. And then what I mean is like sometimes you're making architectural changes, and sometimes you're just making changes within the architecture. And a lot of times while you're writing that code, you don't really know. And I noticed that if I see a change if I keep 100% test coverage and I see a change in that I made changes and the coverage has gone away, that I made an architectural change. I made a change that impacts the architecture. Um, so st render ID, width, and height. So now, and I feel like this makes total sense to me. Basically, I set the AR, and then there's a update aspect ratio ID for width and height in the renderer service. And I don't really need to understand what that does. I just need to know that this calls something. Every line of sense makes sense. Every line makes sense to me. Um, I think. So now I don't know if it actually, I don't think it actually ran the tests. Um, and I found that the most reliable way to force Karma Jasmine, and see it says Karma up here, you probably do not have, if you have a newer version of Angular, you probably don't have that. Um, actually, maybe in my next video, I might be on unit test. I don't think so. I think I'm trying to create the DreamHost version, but reloading this seems to be the most reliable way to rerun all these things. Okay, so now we have 100% test coverage in this. I don't really care. I felt like I went through every line made sense to me. I did not actually test if the actual aspect ratio is 1 or anything like that. Right now, it doesn't care. It doesn't have any safety around trying to update something that doesn't exist or something like that, um, so this one is a lot more complicated, right? Because basically, what this is to me exposing is that I have a branch. And when I have a branch, the first thing that comes to my mind is branches are hard to unit test, and they're very often difficult to understand. There's just not enough information on this line of code to know what happens over here. And there could be 10 of them. It's just not enough. So what is happening here? Basically, what are we actually trying to do? We are actually trying to, I don't even know what we're trying to do. See, we're trying to update the width and height. So basically, this thing, I guess we're setting the width and height is what we're really doing. So, and that's good. Like that was the kind of the whole point is like, I have code here. I don't even know what it does. I thought I knew what it did. Like I know what this line of code does, but I don't know what this sort of block of code does. And this is my opportunity to recognize that. And not only that, but now that I've sort of stepped away, this is very sloppy, right? That's just sloppy. And there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just not like, um, it's just sort of a very unstructured, very mysterious what this does. And I think we've all, like, if you've been developing so long, you get accustomed to this kind of code because this is very typical, um, especially like in an academic environment. You'll see a lot of this sort of if with else's or cases or something like that. Um, so basically, and then what the other thing this does is it actually re up it returns a true or false based on it sets this thing. Um, it sets this variable. Sometimes it sets it to true, and sometimes it sets it to false. So really, what this actually truly does is it initializes the component. Now, initialize the component is very vague, right? So, because what it really, really, really does is it actually sets the AR and the width and height, it looks like. But all of that falls under initialization. So at this point, from line 63 to line 105, all we're doing is doing initialization. See, we even like update the association, this thing. We call this function this recyclable sequence. Um, so it's just like we're doing all kinds of initialization, and that's probably going to continue to grow. So, uh, but the thing is I guess we initialize or we update. Okay, so basically, I don't know. I guess now that I'm starting to get a little bit deeper into this, it is making less sense, which is never a good sign. Like as you get deeper, it gets more confusing. That's generally a sign that uh, that you are kind of setting yourself up for failure, I guess would be the best way to do it. So we aren't actually initializing. We are, um, what are we doing? We're setting dimensions. No, we are, I think we are actually initializing. But the thing is, well, we're only initializing if it's not initialized. But if it's already been initialized, then we're actually doing other stuff. Um, we're uh, okay. So yeah, this is confusing, and it did not seem confusing until we started digging. So if it's initialized, then all we're doing is redrawing the width and height. That's it. it looks like. Now, all of this was done because of the AR, the um, aspect ratio. Like that's the reason, right? So the verb, the reason that we're doing anything here is because the width and the height has changed. Sometimes it's changed because it's being created, and sometimes it's changed because there was a change. So I guess what we're doing is we're handle dimension change. That's really what we're doing. We're responding to something. So I think I'm just going to put this right here. It may not end up there, but handle dimension change handler. That's what this is. And basically it's going to return if it was initialized or not. Boolean. And it's going to accept whether it's been initialized. And I will say that until I got end-to-end testing, I would have been very, very hesitant to make a change like this because these are very high risk changes. But with the end-to-end testing, we always have that to fall back on. Now, I know I have worked in some places where um, you can't change the argument. Like their linter won't allow that. But basically, we want to do something if it's initialized, and we want to do something else if it's not initialized. And if it wasn't initialized, we're gonna mark it as initialized after that. So it always returns true in real life. Um, but we have different logic based on whether it's been initialized or not. And then what we want to do is basically, I think we want all of this, but we don't want that to console log. So basically, this is what we want to do if it's been initialized. Like, basically, we want to kind of let it settle down because there's a lot of reasons why this could change. Right now, the only reason is that we resized it, but there's going to be probably more other reasons. Um, so if we're initialized, all we want to do is say, hey, go ahead and update dimensions and do this, but just do it after 100 milliseconds. Don't do it right now. Um, and then we probably, well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what we might have to do something a little more special um, to get this to run. I'm not sure. Okay, but if it hasn't been initialized yet, then we want to do this. Okay, and this comment isn't even valid anymore because that is actually what we're doing. And then this comment is nothing but confusing now. So let's copy that. And this is what we're doing here. And then we're returning is initialized. And let's just make sure. Okay, so updated. What is updated? How do we use updated? Oh, that's funny. Okay, so Okay, so we're just going to call it. Not going to actually save the result. And then I think that's that. And then we return is initialized. We pass in is initialized. If it's already true, we just leave it alone. I don't think we want this console log anymore. I think this value, this is still with the actual future with. I think that's still useful. It'll be a little confusing in the future, but all right, so that is that, and we have this. So I think what we can now do is comment all of this out. Okay, I don't even, okay, so I think we can comment all of this out, including this updated thing. This is always a very stressful situation for me at this moment. It's just really easy to screw this up. Okay, that recycle happens down here, right? Yeah, recycle sequence. Okay, so I'm just going to comment this out. And then, oh, that's funny. Okay. I'm going to say this dot component initialized is equal to this dot dimension change handler, and it wants a this dot component initialized. So it's going to send it and it's going to get it back. And then updated was the same. Well, updated. Was updated always true? I guess that isn't. See, we didn't actually set updated in here. All right, what does this guy do? Go to definition, update old. Okay, so basically this is always is okay, so this is something I think that we set up so that if it hadn't changed, it wouldn't. Okay, so I don't think there's even any value to this anymore, but I'm going to leave it for the moment. This component initialized. And the thing is like this is a perfect example of something that I'll probably feel okay with, like sort of refactoring away from, only because we have end-to-end tests to sort of ensure. Okay, so let's just make sure this compiles. That's going to be the tricky part. And I just can't even I can't even tell you how many times I've seen people sort of get to where we are, get stuff working and all that, and then they start moving pieces of code around so that everything reads better and all that, and then they botch it, and then like everything's broken. Um, I don't know if it actually did it save. Add viz. Let's see. Um, I guess I'll do this. Dimension change. So I just want to just double check that my new code is actually being like run. So okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so that is good. So let me just go ahead and go back to this, get this out of here. Do that, wait for the refresh, and then just do like the basic test just to make sure that the basics are working. Like all my logic says there's everything should work fine. But it is extraordinarily possible that A, I just made some sort of human error, or B, that that I didn't understand something. Yep, so everything still seems good. All right, so now we can hit refresh and see where we're at. I don't think we'll get 100% coverage, but I think we will get this red will go away. Yep, so that red all went away. Now we still have the same issue, but it's mostly because we haven't passed in. Like we can call this and pass in. So right now it's getting called with the initialized as false, but we can call this function directly and initialize it true. Now I don't think this will get covered by doing that. Um, because it happens like 100 milliseconds later. But even if it was 0 milliseconds later, I don't think it would get caught. And like there's ways that we can modify the test so that it could catch it. Like we could use like async and tick and sort of emulate time passing. But I feel like it's better to break this out into its own function. But let's worry about that if we need to worry about that. Because at this point, I feel like I have a pretty good grip on what every line of code does. Um, so dimension change handler. So we want to come in, we want to close the others. And I do want to I don't want to gloss over the fact that this process that we just went to, like when we first started at the beginning of 2025, like that would have taken me 3, 4, 5 sessions to figure out how to sort of break that out. And it was in a session. And um, that is like something that I'll have in my toolbox from here on out is I'll know a really good way to break things out so that they work, so that they can be unit tested. And once I break things out, the way I kind of do this, it does make things make more sense. Um, like there was a time when I could sit down and tie my shoes and know every step and say, oh, and now I go over this and now I go under that and all that. I do not know those anymore. I just have the muscle memory. There's certain levels here where it's at that muscle memory. Like I kind of have an idea what it's doing, but I don't know step by step. And it's not worth re digging in to get that. I cannot wait to see what happens in a few. Like, will all these unit tests just quit working in a few upgrades? Will the support for, or will, and it may not, it wouldn't surprise me if they don't work, if they keep working, but if it, when I do, like when I create a component, if it doesn't set up the specs for me, or if it does set up the specs, it sets them up in a different language. So, okay, should handle dimension changes. Again, just to be clear, sometimes a lot of places like this is the perfect place to go look and actually see what functions are supposed to do. Like they very much use this as a, oh, do this expect. They very much use this as a way to document things. And then other places, yeah, I mean, there's just um, there's just so many different things that could be happening in here. For me, I am not, this is not like, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, okay, I just want to make sure that I have 100% test coverage. And then when something shows up that isn't covered, that I have at least once said, okay, I understand what every line of this code does. Okay, so all we're doing, all we pass this in is initialized. I don't know what happens. Like, I don't know if things will break if you send in a, yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen here, but const result equals service. Is this a service? Yeah, service dot. Really, this is service? No, this is not a service. This is a component. Am I in the right one? Okay, I don't think I'm in the right. I'm not in the right. Yeah, I'm in the wrong spec. So I'm just gonna delete this. So basically, I was in the Viz service spec, not the Viz component spec. This is the Viz component spec. All right, so it, and then should handle component, or what are we trying to do? We are trying to handle dimension changes. And again, so that's the expectation, and then this is the assertion. An assertion is like you saying, "Hey, take this thing and do use this to do something to it. I want to assert this onto that." Um, so, which is kind of like in the version of English that I kind of grew up with, is not what the word assertion means. So, when I was growing up, assert meant to try hard. Oh, you need to go in there and assert yourself. But that was sort of a working class mindset. Um, and the more of the leadership casts and those sorts of things, assert means to apply a process to assert, like more like attaching, like putting a sticker on something. Like, oh, this is a laptop. Oh, I'm going to put my sticker on this. Okay, now this is my laptop. You can tell because my sticker's on there. I asserted myself on this laptop. Now this is my that. It's more along those lines. That's not like a perfect explanation, but it's more along those lines. Um, so this is component. Oh, think. So, didn't they name it? Oh, it's fixture. Oh, apparently I modified this, and now I have my name of my component apparently is a fixture. Looks like I'm not using that. I think it just added that just now. So fixture, set as attached. Instance. Oh, I'm a bit confused here. Create a viz component. So apparently the way this is, I had to do something apparently. Okay, so this is a viz component apparently, because that's what I'm trying to test is viz components, right? So I guess I need to grab one of these things. We'll see. I think this is so funny. I have absolutely no memory of something like this. Okay, so component dot dimension change handler true. So I do not, while I understand what all the code is doing, I do not understand what the unit test is doing here. I don't understand why I had to do it like this, but apparently this is how I had to do it in order to, I don't know. I don't know exactly why I had to do this. It'd be interesting. Wonder if I have a comment in there. Like moved visualization logic out of the component. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird. All right, so let's see what happens here. See if this still works. I don't know if it picked up the test change. Doesn't look like it actually reran the test. Okay, everything's still passed, so that's good. And we got that. It looks like we got 100% coverage. All right, that's good. Probably, I was thinking we would have to pull this out, this function out, but it still calls the function. And for some reason, it'll be interesting to see if this suddenly starts becoming unreliable in the future. Or if what would be really interesting is to see if I make this the only function or the only test that runs. Because the thing is it might be getting executed after the so it did get passed. It's weird. It acts like not a single test got ran, but it says it ran one. Yeah, so yeah, with just running that actually gets me coverage on everything. So that's good. All right. So one last thing to do before we kind of go into commit mode. I'm not going to do the commit today. Tomorrow will be a perfect day to do that since I'll be tired tomorrow morning when I start work. npm run Cypress run since we have it. So let's see. This does take a while and nothing exciting happens. Cypress open will open it up. This will just run all my tests and let me know if something failed. I don't think we made any changes that if it did fail, I think the tests will catch it. I kind of like this now at this, and maybe it's just because we're at this stage, but I kind of like the idea of writing code and then writing the Cypress, then doing Cypress stuff, and then doing unit tests. But I do think that in this one we kind of did code, unit tests, Cypress, code, because the Cypress actually did a really good job of catching bugs for me. And then, I mean, really good job. Like, there's bugs I definitely would not have caught if it wasn't for Cypress. Um, a big bug right at the top, and then I thought it had it fixed, and then there was a more subtle bug underneath that was not, where it wasn't actually fixed, but it seemed like it was fixed. So now it's trying to run these. I don't know that there's any value to running things headless unless you're it's interesting it's looking for a TypeScript in there. Unless you're and these are all TypeScript. I didn't realize that these were TypeScript. Um Unless it's just kind of happening in the background, like every night at midnight, all these tests run or something. So far so good. I think resize UI was the one that was breaking before. It might have been update, but this was the guy that was problematic. And this would be a lot faster probably if I didn't have timeouts, 2-second timeouts. So that passed. That's test 7 getting ready to run. Test 8 is running right now. And test the last test. Every test passed. I think we can take it, that it's fine. Um, the biggest thing was the resize stuff, and resize is working perfectly now. It's always a perfect square, which is what we want. All right, so that is that. Tomorrow I will kind of go over every one of these changes with a fine-tooth comb And if there's nothing major like console logs, we'll probably end up having to run the end-to-end tests again just to make sure that that nothing weird is happening. Guess it does make sense to look in here. Yeah, so I don't see any really bad stuff, but man, you can see this thing gets called like crazy. Kind of, let's see, what if we clear it? Does it? Okay, it was just when we did like this. As you can see, it like doesn't just break. It doesn't like stall out, and that's because it's got the debouncing. So you can do this all you want, and it doesn't ever stall out. Anyways, yeah, so that'll be tomorrow. We'll probably get this checked in, committed, get these console logs out of here, and we'll go back to the issue list and find out what's next. Can't even remember, but that'll be fun. I think probably the next thing is probably the animations, where every time we come in here, we add a new animation to the um, we assert a new animation on this thing, and it just keeps going faster and faster and faster because the you know it keeps finding new ones to run, and then like you can see how it's just flying now. It's going so fast, and if you look at this log here, you'll see that we have like 10 phantom animations. This is, I think, the only animation that should be there. Now, hopefully, just whatever is calling to create these animations, like if we can just get rid of that, hopefully this problem just goes away. I can't imagine how that won't work, but I think that might be the next. It's kind of one I'm looking forward to working on. I think we have a couple other issues too. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.